My dear friends, we have reached the 22nd Sunday in the ordinary time, and this Sunday we have a special message to you. I feel as your pastor responsible for your information and proper guidance. As you know, the church in America today is experiencing a crisis. Crisis based on a scandal done by a prominent former church official, and it is creating a mess and creating problematic reactions from people. So there have been many requests asking that I talk to you so you can have a proper guidance on how to react and respond to the situation as a church. As you know, the church has survived for more than 2,000 years, and we've always been shaken by crises of all kinds. But you know, we have survived this. Because if you remember in Caesarea Philippi, when Jesus talked to St. Peter, and Jesus told him, "You are rock, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." That is proven in more than 2,000 years of history that the church has weathered and survived all kinds of trials and shake-ups. So first, by way of outline, we will talk and focus on these themes. First, what to do in situations of abuse. What is the response if we hear of abuse cases? What should we do? Second, we will talk about the crisis itself and why it has so strong impact, a strong fallout on the people. And then after that, we will talk about strategies, how to respond. So we will discover ways of properly responding to this. First, we will learn from the wisdom of the hurricane. We know we are from Florida, and almost every year we have strong winds. So what do the authorities tell us if a strong wind is passing by? So if it's a strong shake-up and storm that is passing by, how were we told to respond to that? Then we will go into the history of the church, because especially in the Renaissance period, from the 13th to the 16th century, when the church was shaken up, almost to extinction by forces that were very strong. And we will talk about the Renaissance period, and then what did God do? What happened in that period of time? God sent great personalities and saints, that period that really saved the church from within. It's a counter reform. It's a counter move against the forces that will divide the church. And then after that, we will go down to St. Vincent de Paul and see what we are doing here, as a form of response. What are we doing as a community now, based on what we learned from history, and as a community, how are we responding? There are two things I want to share with you in terms of this, because this is what we think will, one of the things that we are doing is to strengthen the community and to make this church stronger. So what's the issue about news of abuse? This is absolute rule. All abuse cases, and this is no exception, have to be reported to law enforcement. There is no exception, regardless of who did that. It has to be immediately reported to law enforcement. We want to maintain a safe environment where people can gather, we can minister, people who can fellowship, but safe, safe. Every criminal case, like abuse, have to be immediately reported. I remembered I had a school before with more than 500 kids, and I was told the police department was just near our church that any case of abuse, I have to respond immediately and report to the police. Otherwise, I am responsible for it, and I will be the one who will be arrested if I don't do anything. That was an absolute thing that immediately, that is what we adopt here. And the reforms done by the bishops in Washington, zero tolerance. Report cases of abuse. Second, the reason why this crisis is strong because it is dealing with high-profile, famous, powerful individual, and it's only like one individual, or even we can say a handful. My question is, how about the 99.9% of priests and bishops who are behaving, doing their jobs? New York Times is not interested with them because they are unknown and poor. This one individual, high-ranking, all spotlights on him. But how about the rest of the poor clergy and the poor priests and are in the corner and have nothing and no power? Nobody is reporting about them and are behaving. See, in a society where fame and prestige is important for people, this is what's going on. They focus their attention on how to shoot down the one at the top, and that's not fair for the rest of the guys who are behaving. And we demand that people have to be very careful in making judgments. One individual creates this, and they think the whole church is like this. That is not the church. That is one individual who committed things, and that is not the whole church. It's not fair for the countless Catholics who are praying and want to be good. It's not fair for you to be accused of a church like this. And this is a time when people who are mad at the church, people who have grudges with the church, this is the time when their blood pressure is triggered. And they come out and publish all kinds of garbage against the church, which is not fair. That is why stay away from materials that are making accusations of the church. That's not correct. That's not common sense. So what should we do in situations like this? And what's the proper response that we have and the mindset that we have? We remember that when the hurricanes pass, what do the governor and the authorities say? When a strong wind is passing your place, what do they say? Stay inside. Okay? Fortify your dwelling. Do not get out because there are things flying. You may be hit by flying objects and the wind will sweep you to the sea, and damage you. Stay inside. And even after the storm, free the streets for the public service vehicles to assess the damage and start rebuilding. But stay inside. So, and that's the trend or the mindset that the first step that we have to do. Last week when the dioceses were here, the Department of Development was here, and I was talking to some of the guys from the diocese and our people here, that the first thing that we should do, surrounded by all these shake-ups and crises, is continue doing what is good. Believe in the power of good. Good is stronger than evil. Evil will shake us up, but stay on doing what you are doing that is good. Continue praying. Continue attending masses, the sacraments. Continue what you're doing in the charity work, in the food pantry, in the outreach, and the free clinic. Continue all this that we are doing. Do not be scared. Frankly speaking, I'm not scared about or threatened by all these things because I believe, that the church was assured by Jesus that the gates of hell will not prevail. And there's a lot of good happening. We have a lot of good people and good priests and bishops who are trying their best to live the life in fairness to these guys, who are behaving and doing what is right. So continue doing what is good. Lesson from history. In the Renaissance period, of course, 15th century was the time of discoveries and adventure. That was a time when the Portuguese, Spanish explorers set out of the Mediterranean and went to the New World, all kinds of directions, because before, in Europe, they thought that the earth was flat, and it's only the Mediterranean. There's outside, when you go out of the Pillar of Hercules, it is the limit, you will fall into the pit, because the earth, they thought, was flat. For the first time, these explorers proved to the world that the world is not flat, it's round. And so it opened a new mentality in Europe. It was very exciting, very challenging. And then the beginning advent of science in Britain, mathematics in France, and then politics in Italy and Germany. And then with all the discoveries that they have and the transition from agriculture to industrial revolution, a new way of thinking. People now are challenging the church, its structures, where some of them were justified because there were abuses too, right? Even the monasteries, that's why Saint Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross reformed the Carmelites, because there were a lot of parties in the monasteries. The monasteries are becoming, and so they reformed the church and go back to the original message of Jesus. During that time, there were abuses also. So Luther stepped up and questioned the church. But it took some people took an opportunity to divide from the Pope, and that was the church was challenged. So what did God do at the time to save the church and to fulfill His promise? He sent at least 4 great saints to reform the church from within. Staying inside, discovering the power within and the power of God. First, one of them was Ignatius of Loyola from Spain. He was coming home from the Crusades. He got sick. And then when he recovered, he went to Manresa and discovered ways of prayer, spiritual exercises, telling the people, first step to combat the crisis is we have to pray. 30-day silence, the Ignatian retreat. And then he went to Rome and established seminaries to train ignorant clergy. Clergy who do not know about dogma and morals and doctrine and discipline, training seminaries. And then he put up schools and universities, and every major city in the world has Loyola University. That's from St. Ignatius. And then he sent missionaries to the New World, South America, and all over the world. He saved the church from within. Then came the second man, St. John Bosco in Italy. The same thing that he did. When there's so much attraction to power and the abuses of power and wealth, John Bosco went to the streets and gathered the poor orphans. He built houses for them and fed them and educated them. And then schools. He was the founder of the Salesian order. Sent missionaries all over the world. Hospitals for the poor. And then the third man, Alfonso Liguori, the same thing. Schools of theology, centers of learning, hospitals, first the poor, and then educated the people. And he's considered a hero in Italy. And then the final one was from France, our patron saint, Saint Vincent de Paul, from Marseille, who also started serving the poor in the streets, the widows, the orphans. Then built seminaries also to educate ignorant clergy. Even our seminary in Boynton Beach is St. Vincent de Paul. And he sent missionaries all over the world, and colleges, and orphanages, and school, and the hospitals for the sick. These people, listening to the Spirit from within, changed the world, changed the church, and saved the church from shake-up and crisis. We were assured by Jesus that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. So what is our response today here in the parish? Basing from what we learned from history, what are we doing here? First, last week we had a meeting with the Finance Council, and I approved the proposal to increase funding for our charities. We have to, amidst crisis of power and comfort and people seeking for prestige, we will go back to our commitment to the poor. And we will beef up the funding. And that I told everybody that all donations for charity should be given back 100%. And the parish should not get anything from that. It should go straight to the poor. And to assure our donors that their intention is fulfilled and followed, the administration fees and expenses in the outreach and food pantry will be shouldered by the parish, not from people, from donations. We will increase our commitment to the poor and the needy, as mentioned in the readings, and from the experience of the history of the church. We are responding, and sometimes this crisis situation inspire us to do more good, especially when we are challenged. We kind of look into ourselves and see if we can do more, because good is stronger than evil. And it is our commitment to the good that will destroy evil. And the second thing that we are doing is we are building. We will build. Give opportunities for people. Create opportunities for people. We already met with the 5 architects who came here and wanted to see our place so they can plan their drawings and their documents. And we will zero down to 2 with the diocese, and then we will interview them, and then when they are chosen, we will present them to you, and they will hear what you like. We are building. It's no longer. It's already a commitment. It's approved, and nothing can stop us already. So these are just ways and means that probably God has given us so we can look into ourselves and believe in our mission and not to be shaken by situations and crises like this. It has been proven the gates of hell will not prevail against the church.